This is the Ready Set Podcast, and here's your host, me, Joe Persinger.
Hey, how was your week, you bucks? Well, we've got one hell of a podcast for you this week. Klaus, we are loaded this week. We're going to rant, we're going to rave, and spare no one in the process. So what do we got on tap? Well, we've got updates on the 2019 college scandal. They're coming back. And you guessed it, more asteroids. An airline passenger mistakes the exit door for the bathroom. And no, that's not a euphemism for how the Democrats govern. A breastfeeding mom gets the boot from the local pool, but I'm bearing the lead. And I'm going to explain why and what the lead is later in the podcast. NBC has finalized the Democratic debate lineup, and the DNC feels screwed over. And in the staff report, I'm going to explain why Cardi B is lazy. And in what can only be described as a Joe Biden-esque flip-flop, I'm going to defend Miley Cyrus against this woke, leftist, revisionist social media mob. This is your one-stop shop current events and politics podcast. If society is a joke, then we're just here for the first set. Are you ready? Set podcast! All right, so the 2019 college scandal update. It's been a while since we broached this subject. I don't know, almost a month, I want to say. Okay, well, Stanford sailing coach John Vandermeer. I think I spotlighted this guy. He was someone that I shouldn't even brought it up because I don't remember, but he made $500K in bribes while he was sentenced to 1 day in jail, credited with time served. He paid a hefty fine, but unfortunately, this guy wasn't pocketing these six-figure bribes. Those went to the Stanford sailing program. I'll give myself a little more volume here. Go up. Okay. Where were we? Stanford sailing program. This guy is what is this guy, a communist? What's going on here? Well, he's reinvesting into the youth at his own behest, so he must be an Obama Democrat. His lawyers argued that since he didn't benefit personally from this illegal endeavor, he should avoid serious jail time. The judge agreed, and so did the U.S. Attorney's Office.
Come on.
What about the shoes?
No, Mark.
Money's gotta be the shoes.
Is it the shoes? Still awaiting trial and pleading not guilty is Aunt Becky, and I really want to play that Full House soundtrack underneath that, but I'll probably get fucking thrown off YouTube. Fucking commies. Where are we here? So Aunt Becky is going to plead not guilty with her husband, the Target shirt and pants guy, Massimo. There are reports out there that her daughter, both of them, were aware of this scam to get them in. Yeah, no shit. I mean, who takes rowing crew pictures, or whatever the fuck it's called, for a sport you've never participated in? So she might have to testify. We'll see. Rich girls, crazy stuff. Then we got Felicity Huffman pleading guilty to conspiracy. This was actually like a month ago or so. But she committed let me start over. She pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit mail fraud and honest services mail fraud. What the fuck does that even mean? Anyway, she'll be sentenced in mid-September, a.k.a. when the NFL is in full swing. Give myself a little more volume here. Let's see. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the asteroid update. I probably need a new soundbite for this because I'm doing this almost every week so far. So holy hell, we got 7 asteroids passing through the neighborhood this week. If we're using the 300,000-mile wheelhouse radius scale from a few episodes ago, which translates to a radius of 300,000 miles around the Earth, so any space rocks floating by past that radius, as we used a few episodes ago, the home plate, glove, wheelhouse, I've probably totally destroyed trying to explain this, but if you listen to the episode, you know what the hell I'm talking about. Yeah, I'm watching this thing sail in the stands, to the dugout, whatever. So anyway, I'm not going to break these down one at a time. There's too many of them, so I'm just going to give you the one highlights. Let's see here. So what did I write here? 3 of these asteroids are passing by. I don't know. Okay. Oh, I see what it is. Okay, so 3 of the asteroids of that I've talked about here are passing by on June 14th. The first one is going to buzz us by June 11th at 6:15 a.m. And the bombardment just continues until, what do we got here? June 16th at 2:29 p.m. What the hell is today? Okay, so that's going to be tomorrow afternoon. The asteroid's name is 2019 LR, and it's basically flying at 33,600 miles per hour, and it's about 4.2 million miles out. So the thing's not even going to sniff Earth. For reference, I think the moon's like a few hundred, 250,000 miles, something like that, outside of Earth. There are a few more reports of asteroids passing through. That's a shit throw, Greg! I posted the stories on our Facebook and Twitter pages if you guys want to check it out. All right, so plowing ahead here, we got a Pakistani International Airlines flight was delayed by 7 hours after a passenger opened the emergency exit door of the aircraft after mistaking it for a toilet. All right, be right back, Greg. I'm going to go take a shit. You walk up the aisle toward the front of the plane. You're too good to use the bathroom in the back of the plane. Plus, you like the potpourri they put in this gray area known as the first-class restroom. You walk up to the door and think, a window. Wow! This airline is really stepping it up. A view from the can? I mean, this door handle is a little different, and you don't see the vacancy occupy sign. Well, that's because this is a classy airline, you think. You turn the overtly large door handle, pop the door open. Wow, that's a heavy door, you think, as you forcibly push it ajar. As you take your next step into the bliss of the world known as the first-class airline bathroom, the floor beneath you disappears. As you land rib cage first onto the sun-blistering pavement, you turn your body so your back is against the ground, and you make eye contact with the head flight attendant and the flight captain, who is shaking his head in disbelief at you. The captain arches his back, leans back to the cockpit to call out to his co-pilot, Greg, you gotta get out here and see this idiot! Yeah, so what else happened on this? This was the PIA flight PK702 from Manchester to Islamabad was delayed by a few hours. I think they thought the guy was trying to take the plane down, and they just all ended up holding the guy down. Poor bastard. Yeah, I think he said it was his first time flying, and that was his excuse. Well, it's hard. I don't buy that for a second. But anyway, moving on ahead here. All right. Well, do you think your boss is a dick? Kyle Van Noy. Kyle Van Noy admitted during a Fortnite stream that Bill Belichick shot him in the face during a paintball competition. Bill got my ass, he said via Jordan Heck of Sporting News. I shot him in the face, and that's a point for us. Go team. If you can't tell, that's my Bill Belichick impersonation. Golden State Warriors, well, they're donezo. We have probably watched this dynasty crumble right in front of our eyes over the last 3 days now. Now we probably all know how Pelosi felt as she watched the Clinton dynasty melt down faster than Chinese cheap steel on a gas stove. So what was it? Earlier this week, KD went down with an Achilles tear, which he just recently had surgery on. He gave a thumbs up in an Instagram post. I don't know if he gave a thumbs up, but he did verbally. Klay Thompson also tore his ACL, I think, in the losing Game 6 for Golden State, which I know the left-wing sports narrative, sorry, that's redundant. The sports narrative was saying that if they lose this game, I guess their dynasty's over. Well, I guess we'll buy into that a little bit, because if you think about this, that's 2/3 of the big three on that team that is gone for at least 1 year. Will they be the same athletes they were a month ago? Maybe. But I doubt we'll see Golden State sniff that kind of success they've had over the last 5-6 years. Who knows? Maybe KD and Klay can go on a speaking tour and complain how they got screwed, even if it was fair and square. And for the record, I doubt we'll see the same kind of Kevin Durant as we have in the past. All right, so staying in the Golden State, if you will, the California Lottery, the director of the California Lottery, will say, resigns. According to an anonymous letter sent to the Sacramento Bee last August, the director of the California State Lottery sounds like a great boss, or the worst boss, depending on which side of his management team's favoritism spectrum you land on. Believe me, I know people that have been on both sides, and it's definitely better to be on the favorite side. So let's see what an audit uncovered some lavish spending, kind of like the guy that does the does the dry goods and food orders at this restaurant I work at. We have enough brown sugar packets to get us through an alien takeover or a Chinese occupation. And don't even get me started on the perishable goods. Okay, so going back to what I was talking about here. The lottery office spent $17,000 for pens shaped like baseball bats. $14,000 for baseball caps. These Giant fans are crazy. So I'm skeptical on this. I mean, is this $17,000 for pens and $14,000 for baseball caps? Or in other words, $31,000 for miscellaneous stuff, just like the federal budget says it's, or the federal defense budget, which rightfully so is at the right amount. Fuck you, leftists. So this is when the federal defense God, I can't talk today. The federal defense budget says it spends $40,000 on hammers and $100,000 on toilet seats. Yeah, okay. I wonder if those numbers were inflated to make up for lost monies. Yes, doing the air quotes with my fingers. I mean, what makes more sense? An unchecked office was attempting to cover up embezzled funds via bloated office costs like pens and hats? Or are these people so inept they spent frivolously on frivolous things? I mean, if there's no embezzlement, someone has a hat or a pen company on eBay. I mean, great job, California. I mean, this is why you need oversight. Because you can literally be like, yeah, I spent $30,000 on between pens and baseball caps. What? Huh? Why? And here's another example. $300,000 on inappropriate spending on travel, food, and hotel rooms over 4 years for sales conferences. Now, I actually believe they probably did spend all that because here's a perfect example. I mean, I'm sure bar tabs are included into that. There is, going back here to my example, a lottery employee who lives 6 miles from a meeting site was allowed to stay at a hotel for 3 nights, costing the state agency $536. Wow. So the article, I believe, said in total. So it's not like they were staying at the Ritz-Carlton. That's for 3 nights at $536. So it sounds like someone got to just chill out at a La Quinta for a few nights. Which still is, not an advertisement, but I guess it's a nice place. But $536, and I mean, how lazy can you be? We'll get to that later. The lack of adequate control, including policies, procedures, and accountability, was an ongoing issue within the California State Lottery Office, and according to the author of this anonymous letter, was also accompanied with pictures depicting bawdy behavior that took place on sales trips. So I guess included in this letter was a man pictured with his head in a woman's shirt, was reportedly on the lottery's management team. Oh, well, at least they're having fun partying. There's a quote, "These shenanigans have become a regular practice of this management team when they travel to meetings," the letter says. Yeah, I mean, I've worked in a bar before and seen some of these convention folks get out on the town, and they definitely let loose. I remember one time I was working a party, and a guy did a double of Johnny Walker Blue, and I know he wasn't paying for that, and that's a $64 double, if you're wondering. Now, here's what I find hilarious about this. This just kind of speaks to what happens when you put liberals in charge or Democrats in charge. There was no oversight in this situation. This guy wasn't taken down by some overzealot police bureaucrat or some, state congressman or state senator with an agenda, political agenda, if anything. I mean, no one was advising reform for California's state lottery. This guy was taken down from within by an employee who wrote a letter twice. Think about that. They wrote a letter twice. And the letter was spotlighting all this cronyism and office mismanagement twice. So that means they wrote a letter, and someone got it in the state, and they're like, whatever. I think it probably went to the governor's office. So someone was just like, yeah, whatever. They write the letter a second time. I mean, let's be honest, folks. Who writes letters? Do you know how much effort it takes to write a letter? I mean, things have to be really bad if that's what you're resorting to, is kind of what I'm getting at here. And because it's California, they take their damn time getting around to dealing with this mismanagement. I mean, if you have to write a letter twice, how bad of an atmosphere are you creating as a boss? You can't let the inmates run the asylum and create political enemies at the same time. My point is, you have to really, 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 really be a bad boss to be taken down like this. Because it's obvious the state wasn't even close to sniffing anything that was even wrong with the lottery office. Wow. moving on ahead here. So we got our Fox town halls. Have you guys seen this? That Fox has kind of opened themselves up to Democrat candidates. I mean, they rightfully did get screwed. Well, I shouldn't say they didn't rightfully get screwed by the DNC. They wrongfully got screwed by the DNC. And actually, I'm going to get to this in a little bit, but the NBC announced the Dem debate lineup, and they were told, hey, by the DNC, hey, we want you to randomize this. We don't want like an undercard versus an overcard, kind of what the Republicans did, because the Democrats are better people. So Fox wanted to do one of these debates, and the DNC was like, no, you guys are a bunch of fascists. You're state TV. Well, that's hilarious. Go fuck yourself, Tom Perez. So anyway, their response to this was, hey, well, we'll just do town halls for these candidates. Hey, we have the number. This is why it makes no sense what the DNC is doing. It's the number one cable news network right now. And they're like, no, we can't allow this. Yeah, who's being biased in that situation? So anyway, Fox is doing these town halls to give exposure to, a few of these candidates. Some of them have denied the opportunity to appear on these town halls on Fox, but we had Julio Castro had one last Thursday. Kirsten Gillibrand, Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren have all done them as recently. And I swear, these candidates, they're just, these candidates are either pandering jackasses, which they are, or these audience are just morbidly biased, which they are. Joe, what's your point? How about you shut the fuck up and let me finish? Every candidate has to attempt to get that one soundbite dig at the network. I know Pete Buttigieg had one. I think Elizabeth Warren did. Kirsten Gillibrand was trying to get one, and Chris Wallace was like, shut the fuck up and be thankful. And she still just went ahead and ignored him. I mean, it's how much oily and slimy can you get? This is the number one cable-rated news network trying to help you get your message out. And this conflation and rationalization of condemning the news side of the network for being state TV is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it would be like if MSNBC, I believe who's hosting this next debate, would be taking someone from the opinion side of the network, like Rachel Maddow, and placing them on the debate stage. Oh, wait. That is what they're doing. Oh, wouldn't that be interesting if Fox News said, we're going to have Sean Hannity host this DNC debate. You'd think Trump just started nuclear war with Canada. Well, speaking of Donald Trump, so some book recently came out. I'm not even really worried about the book, who wrote it, or what it's called, but there was just this little tidbit about President Donald Trump. I guess he was having a lunch with George Soros after it was a post-election lunch with Donald Trump, and I guess they were just basically saying, hey, Mr. President, it's probably not a good idea to use your Twitter account as much, that whole argument. And I mean, I think he goes on to say, like, that's kind of where we were coming from. Turns out it doesn't really matter. But Trump, he goes, where's the quote here? I'm trying to find it. He said, okay, I've got tens of millions of people that follow me on social media, and when I tweet, the press immediately pick it up and broadcast it and publishes it. So, I mean, you can see that was kind of his argument for having the Twitter handle. But what I love about it, at one point, as Trump was going on about why he likes Twitter, he goes, it's like owning a newspaper, but without the losses. I mean, it's so funny how logical he is. Like, that's something I would probably think. Like, why do I need someone else to carry my own message when I can just do it and I don't have to worry about my business losing any money? If anything, I can make money. He's never going to advertise, not as president, but wouldn't that be funny if we started seeing that soon? Actually, you could probably argue, if you're a liberal Democrat, that he hawks all of his campaign stuff via his Twitter account, I believe. Maybe he doesn't do that. Maybe he does it somewhere else. But it's just kind of funny. He is still a salesman at heart, and you can't really fault him for it. What else do we got here? So via Newsweek, actually, this was last week. I wanted to get this into the podcast, but I couldn't work it in. But I was able to do it this week. So there's this game called Jesus Strikes Back. Judgment Day, and it's a PC shooter that allows you to play as Jesus Christ along as a number of figures beloved by the alt-right. So this is written by Newsweek, so that's where that terminology is coming from. Mostly because you can also be playing Donald Trump, Adolf Hitler, even though he was technically a Democrat, Vladimir Putin, I don't know who that guy is, Pepe the Frog, Brent, I don't know who that is, and some other guy. Oh, I guess the Moss government. Okay, so this is clearly made by someone who's a Nazi. The objective of the game is to kill a variety of different enemies, including social justice warriors, feminazis, gay and trans people, don't agree with that, migrants, Democrats, agree with that, Antifa, and abortion doctors, don't understand why that has to be put in there. The game's various levels see you fight in a mosque, a gay nightclub, Jesus, a news studio, and at the U.S.-Mexico border. Some of the video game bosses you fight characters based on Democrat politicians, including Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders. Well, I guess, how does that work? You're just going to have to get in a basketball game with Barack. That does not sound right. He likes to play basketball. It has nothing to do with anything. Bernie Sanders, that's not going to be a fight at all. He's just going to fall asleep. Nancy Pelosi, yeah, again, that's not even, Ilhan Omar, okay, so this is kind of, the idea of it's kind of funny, but you can see why the left's freaking out about it. Yeah, it's just, just some Nazi trying to have fun and troll everyone. What can you do? Freedom of speech. Welcome to America. All right, so what I was alluding to earlier was the Democrats having a debate in a few weeks. The first one's going to take place on June 26th, 2019, and it's going to be on NBC. I believe, I imagine it should be on NBC and MSNBC. Does it even say here? Yeah, here we go. We'll air live on NBC, MSNBC, Telemundo from 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern. Good God. I'm not a machine. I can't stay up that late. I guess I'm going to have to. And hosted on a bunch of other things. NBC News, Lester Holt, Savannah Guthrie, Chuck Todd, and Rachel Maddow, and Jose Diaz. I wonder if that's the guy that was arguing with Trump. I don't think it is. But anyway, so here's the list. And there's a little funny story I read about this too. So on the first night, Wednesday, June 26th, it's going to be Senator Cory Booker, Senator Elizabeth Warren, Beto, Senator Amy Klobuchar, my dad's not a drunk, former Representative John Delaney, who, Tulsi Gabbard, Joe Rogan endorses her, Juan Castro, he's an Obama shill. He was also guilty of the Hatch Act. Tim Ryan of Ohio, who, New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio, and Washington Governor Jay Inslee, who. So this would be the undercard that the Democrats were clearly trying to avoid having. I guess they wanted NBC to. So they'll tell it this way. NBC said, hey, why don't you send over someone from your campaign? We're going to take all these 20 names, put them in a hat, and randomly draw them out. And there was, I think, according to the article I read, there were campaign. I don't know if all the campaign staffers showed up, but the ones that did witness what they said they did, and this is the outcome of it. So I guess the DNC felt screwed because the second night is Bernie Sanders, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, Mayor Pete, Senator Michael Bennet of Colorado, who? Author Marianne. So this lady isn't even in government. So I've been seeing this lady, Marianne Williamson. I don't know who it is. Never seen her name pop up in any of the political shows. I've never even heard her announce her presidency. And this lady was able to make the debate over, I think, 3 people who were in government. That's insane. I don't know who she is. Eric Swalwell, who? Kristen Gillibrand, entrepreneur Andrew Yang, and Governor John Hickenlooper. So clearly the second one is that's your main event because you got frontrunner Joe Biden, you got Kamala Harris, Bernie Sanders is in there, Buttigieg. So you have 4 of the top. Oh God, excuse me. I mean, there's 4 of your top, at least top 10 right there because core. I think what is it? Yeah, Elizabeth Warren is kind of she's the she'd be punching down in that group. It's just very interesting how it worked out that way. And I know the DNC is definitely not happy about this. But it's still going to be fun to watch. I will definitely say that. I will be watching, and I know Mr. President Donald Trump will be too. All right, so plowing ahead here into some more political stuff. We got the ACLU asked the Supreme Court to consider delaying the census citizen question ruling until fall. What does it say here? The Supreme Court, the ACLU asked the Supreme Court to wait until fall to decide if it wants the Trump administration to add a question about the citizen to the 2020 census. And basically what they want to do is ask whoever's taking the census if you're an American citizen or if you're an alien. And there's only one reason why the ACLU would ask this. I'll pose it this way. If you're a lawyer defending a case and you knew you were going to win, are you going to ask the deciding body to postpone their decision? No. Now, I will admit it's not that cut and dry. This situation is a little bit more nuanced. And if you're a Democrat, don't hold your breath here for the good news. Go listen to that whiny corporate stooge David Pacman for that spin. Fuck that guy. For no reason whatsoever. I'm just being a jerk. So, don't take it personally if for some reason you're listening to this. David Pacman, you jerk. The Trump administration has requested the Supreme Court pick up the pace in deciding this census immigration question, which, if you're out of the loop on this one, this census question is asking if you're an American citizen or an illegal immigrant. And in order to get these census questions, and the questions... The citizen, God, I can't fucking speak today. These census documents printed out, and so they want to put this question on the census. And in order to get all these 2020 census documents printed out, the Trump administration is asking the Supreme Court, can you pick up the pace here? So in order to get these documents printed up and sent out, the High Court needs to basically come to a conclusion on this question, or should I say this question that's in question? Isn't that a question? What a funny word, question. What asshole came up with that word?
Excuse me, my good man. May I, what's the word here? May I ask you something? No, that's not it. Stay with me, young squire. There is something I need to tell you. Aha, my good man. May I ask you a question?
The room falls silence. A man in the back of the room yells,
"Did Billy Baggins just invent a word? Hear, hear."
Where was I? Right, at the Supreme Court immigration question with the ACLU strategy. So the Trump administration wants this situation dealt with swiftly so they can execute this census. The fake news media is basically trying to accuse the administration of wanting to expedite this decision, which is just intellectually dishonest. It's not that they want to expedite this decision to just get around whatever laws or decisions there are, or they're trying to put pressure on the Supreme Court to, rule in his favor. That's not what's going on. They just want to make sure they can execute this because, if they don't, the fake news media is going to attack them. So saying that this request for expedition on the Trump administration side for nefarious purposes is just intellectually dishonest. And when these high priests of our society, the Supreme Court, hears oral arguments, the question these priests, judges, that are directed to the lawyers arguing the case can allow the listener to read the tea leaves. So you can imagine the ACLU is a little nervous. And with the 5-4 majority going to conservatives, the ACLU, like I said, probably isn't feeling too good about the decision or the outcome of it. So the overall strategy from the ACLU is straightforward. You have the court to delay the decision until the fall. It's a win-win, just like I was saying before. If the ruling goes against you, the Trump administration might not have the time to reprint and distribute the new census. If the ruling goes in the ACLU's favor, now the media can blame the Trump for running a disorganized administration. Especially when it comes to the census. They're going to probably go after him anyway, so I don't even, it's a win-win-win for the media. It's like trying to open a door with 20 guys holding it shut. When the security breaks it up to let you through, the mob of the people defend themselves by saying, "What? He's a mess. He doesn't have the mental capacity to open the door." Enemy of the people. I'm still trying to figure out how these media conglomerates expect to survive this new wave of media like podcasting and long-format interviews when they keep laying out landmines for themselves. It's obvious that not only is the media aligned against Trump, but 98% of the mainstream media leans left. 90% of their coverage of the president is all negative, and about 33% of all stats are made up. Have you ever even heard them discuss the economy, even once as a leading primetime news story? I don't think so. So when Trump is out of office, all of a sudden I'm supposed to think, well, that was a wild ride. I guess the media can be trusted again. No. Nope. This printing press, the printing press killed the town gossip queen's hold on power. The press was taken over by the radio. Radio was trounced by television, and now broadcast TV is being frog-leaked by various forms of streaming media that is on demand, like podcasting, TV shows, or whatever you can dig out of YouTube, like this podcast. Okay, well, that rant kind of took a little bit of a left turn. Plowing ahead. Misty, I don't even know how to pronounce this last name. It's something French. Dageroux said a manager asked her to cover up as she was feeding her child and was told to leave by police. So to get to the red meat of the story, basically, I guess she was breastfeeding her kid. Yeah, nothing wrong with her in public at a public pool, nonetheless. Again, nothing wrong. But I guess someone asked her to cover up, and she just started ripping into them and swearing and this and that. And when the police were called, they essentially asked her to leave for using foul language. Yeah, that makes sense. That's one way to kind of get around it. But yeah, she just basically kind of stood there and said, leave me alone, please. I am in my right, and just kind of kept, even keel attitude. I bet she probably could have spent the rest of the day at the pool. But instead of ripping into someone, you're just leaving yourself open to basically get kicked out. But we're burying the lead here, kind of what I alluded to earlier. Her name's Misty. Haven't we as a society collectively agreed that naming your child Misty is like knighting her out of the womb as a stripper? Misty. Who names their daughter Misty and thinks, here's our next female president? Yeah, of the Trailer Park Homeowners Association. Maybe she's, at best, the president of the Secret Society Union of Strippers, which isn't even a thing yet, because if the owner of the strip club found out she's attempting to unionize, he's going to throw her out of the strip club. Then she'll be forced to go work for her cousin Reggie the Third in some one-horse town off the interstate in the middle of Louisiana. And she's pretty convinced he's trying to fuck her. Misty. Don't name your daughter Misty. So I found this article from People talking about, Chris Daughtry and his wife reveal she's bisexual. Whatever. Yeah, good for you. And this is People, so this is a leftist scandal rag, excuse me. His Daughtry and his wife Deanna reveals she's bisexual, and then it goes, why capitalism is profiting off of Pride Month. And when I read this originally, I think I wrote it as, why is capitalism profiting off of Pride Month? So I went right into it, and I go, I bet I can answer that question. And I bet it's the same reason Oreo cookies made a gay pride themed packaging. Sales and units sold. That's the other part of your answer. Plus, you can come off woke to one of the most sensitive, untested, and outspoken generations since the Brits occupied New York. That's capitalism, folks. And what's even crazier is that it's so obvious that these corporations are only trying to profit off this June event. I mean, do you really think Nabisco executives and the Oreo team sat around and discussed the plights of LBGTQ45ZA 69,000 or whatever it's called, and came to the conclusion that the best way to represent and combat this non-existent war on homosexuals is to create a package spotlighting Pride Month? And all these progressive Democrats, even some of these center-left Democrats, want so much of this narrative to be reality that they're willing to ignore all the red flags because they want to believe that Nabisco isn't attempting to profit off of them, but show the world, one cookie at a time, the plights of the gay community. I have one question that you should ask yourself. Have these companies donated any of these profits to LGBTQAS 69,000 charities? I'll wait. Capitalism always wins. All right, so we're actually going to backtrack to Donald Trump here for a second, because this story kind of came out on, I think it was Thursday night. So I was in the middle of writing all this, so this is kind of why it kind of went out of whack a little bit, but that's here nor there. So everyone here knows I love to point out the contradictions of the fake news media, and when I get a chance to bust a Disney subsidiary engaging in this enemy of the people fake news rhetoric, I jump at the chance. So on Thursday, Clinton stooge and former communications director George Stephanopoulos interviewed Trump. And if you haven't heard by now, it's a weekly show, people. Bear with me. Just play the clip, Klaus.
You want that kind of interference in our elections?
It's not an interference. They have information. I think I'd take it. If I thought there was something wrong, I'd go maybe to the FBI. If I thought there was something wrong.
Fake news, Disney, and the aristocracy elite media began parroting this bogus talking point about Trump taking foreign intelligence in an election. Foreign intelligence. That's cute. So in other words, opposition research? Gee, that sounds familiar. Klaus?
The Clinton campaign and the Democrats secretly paid Fusion GPS to continue their research efforts.
So let's break this down so far. We have the media saying,
Trump is hypothetically admitted to accepting foreign intelligence, aka opposition research, to alter an election. Gah!
and then you have Republicans popping their heads into the outrage party, walk the outrage party down to the elevators, through the lobby of the hotel this party was being thrown in, down the street, around the corner to this seedy trash heap known as the Clinton Campaign Opposition Research Team. The Republicans turn around and ask this Democrat-fueled outrage party a simple question. So how is this trash heap any different? The Democrat leadership and the elite media make their way through the crowd to the front of the trash heap. If you're wondering, all those explosions and collapsing sounds are the Democrat and the media's narrative.
Nothing to see here, please.
Okay, let's get to the staff report.
In my hand, I hold the staff.
All right, so Cardi B is a stereotype. I'm just going to go right to it. She's a dumpster fire within a dumpster fire within another dumpster fire. But if you were to get into the inner core of this dumpster-fired cubed, I'm sure you'd find a shell of what she used to be that has devolved into a cum bucket. But I digress. She opts for plastic surgery, which apparently is breast implants and liposuction. The lipo makes her feet swell. Whatever. Do you, bitch. But here's what I find interesting. Quote, this is in parentheses, referring to context of what she's saying. People tell me, and this is where the quote starts, "You lazy. You should just work out." Cardi said on Instagram Live, "I do whatever the fuck I want to do with my body. I don't have the time of day like you do. Like, my job as an entertainer is a 24-hour job, bro. So no, I don't have time to work out, and I wanted specific things that I know that no matter how much I work out, will not get fixed." Okay. And end quote, I should say. She didn't say okay. That was me. End quote after fixed. Okay. I honestly don't know where to start. Yeah, it's her body and shitty negative personality, but then it takes a turn toward the town of ignorance. I think that's a left turn. I don't have the time of day like you do. Like, my job as an entertainer is a 24-hour job, bro. So no, I don't have time to work out. That's kind of what stuck out to me. That two-sentence quote right there. I don't have the time of day like you do. Like, my job as an entertainer is a 24-hour job, bro. So no, I don't have time to work out. I mean, we're not only we taking a left turn into the town of ignorance, we're speeding down the road. So what she fails to recognize here is that the core demographic of her audience is teenagers who do have all the time in the world. But like her, they're lazy and not interested in anything but social media and how life plays out on there. Too bad she wasn't thinking about that last year when Nicki Minaj beat the shit out of her. Then there's her older fans who casually listen to the music at the gym while they attempt to better themselves with the little time they have in between dealing with their kids, life, friends, and that pesky 40-hour work week most of us have to participate in. So in other words, Cardi B has plenty of time to work out. She's just like a lazy teenager. Don't let her wide-open, non-40-hour work week schedule fool you. She's lazy, irresponsible, gets in fights with other adults, and then uses their kids as the reason for getting into said fight. A dumpster fire of a human being. That's who. Where was I? That's right. She's a lazy liar, stereotype selling you snake oil in the form of shitty R&B music, and I hope, for the sake of her future kid researching their mother's work, quotes and videos on the internet, that this personality is just that, made up for the public. But again, I don't think she's that smart. She's a snake oil salesman. She has no job requirements other than to be at this stadium by this time and go promote this album for 5 minutes on Instagram. No time to work out? You work 24 hours a day? Wow, she must have like 30 albums out. So I can only imagine how much of a turnoff to her fans to hear something that ignorant being espoused by an irresponsible 20-something who opts for the easy road versus the road where the character is built. But I'm probably giving her fans way too much credit. They're all just as dumb and ignorant as she is. Just read the Instagram comments. It's like traveling to planet Ignoramus. Maybe Nicki Minaj should kick her ass again. She's just as ignorant, but way hotter. No time to work out? Oh, please. Do some sit-ups in your private jet, jerk off a few randos after a concert, run a mile around the stadium. So fucking lazy. Wow. All right. So that's all I got to say to Cardi B. I hope your feet never de-swell. I know that's not a word, but go fuck yourself. So now I'm going to do my Joe Biden impersonation here and flippity-flop, flip, 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 flop. So last week I ripped Miley Cyrus for basically being an opportunist in the media. And she popped up again this week for something she said about 2 years ago. So in a May 2017 piece, the We Can't Stop singer made a generalization about the hip-hop scene while saying how much she liked the Kendrick Lamar song Humble. Quote, I love that because it's not, come sit on my dick, shit on my cock. I'm assuming that's what she was trying to say. It doesn't really say. I can't listen to that anymore, Cyrus said. That's what pushed me out of the hip-hop scene a little. It was too much Lamborghini, got my Rolex, got a girl on my cock. I'm so not that. The interview was noted by the YouTube user Kenya Wilson on her As Told by Kenya channel in a video uploaded May 31st titled Miley Cyrus is my problematic fave. Sorry. Let's see. I'm going to be honest here. I know I just read a paragraph with words on it, but my brain didn't understand any of it. Let me read it again. Oh, okay, I see. I get it now. It's just a girl on her YouTube channel talking into a camera. And you gotta love the fake news media, pumping people up like there's some one-stop shop media place. But I digress. Anyway, the Miley Cyrus superfan, Wilson, in the clip, describing herself as woke, said she's a longtime fan of Cyrus, who she feels is a trailblazer after guiding her career from a Disney diva to an edgier artist with a hip-hop influenced 2013 album Bangers. Wilson said Cyrus and her album cleared the way for artists such as Ariana Grande, Selena Gomez, Taylor Swift to reach new heights with edgier, bolder material. She said that while Cyrus has never done real harm to anyone, she has done some very racially insensitive things as far as culturally appropriation is concerned. Now, to be clear, I am quoting an article from... Did I put the goddamn article in here? Of course I didn't. Unfortunately, I don't know how to give whatever place it was credit. Sorry, I'm not plagiarizing you, but there were parts of this that I was reading from an article that unfortunately I didn't take notes on. My bad. So anyway, we're going to plow ahead here. So, to kind of clarify... this lady who is critiquing Miley Cyrus is basically accusing her of very racially insensitive things as far as cultural appropriation is concerned. Okay? So, this kind of got me thinking. So here you have someone who said something 2 years ago, and yes, it's a critique. Basically, it's kind of a misogynist critique, which is rightfully said. This, I believe, was a critique of... actually, I remember when this came out a few years ago because this was back when I think you had someone like Christine Leahy, who was a co-host on Colin Cowherd's sports show, kind of talking about how she likes to celebrate hip-hop and rap, but in the same breath, she calls Donald Trump a misogynist. Easy there, bitch. You listen to that kind of music, too. And, here we got Miley Cyrus kind of echoing, that sentiment that that's really all hip-hop has devolved into is, got my Lamborghini, got my Rolex, got a girl on my cock. And then you got this girl, Kenya Wilson, who is just some YouTuber, or as I like to call a one-stop shop media stop, or what? No, I even fucked that up the second time. What is it? Some one-stop media shop. Whatever. And she basically accuses Miley Cyrus 2 years later of using what did she say? Culturally racially insensitive things as far as cultural appropriation. So I wonder if we were to go into a time machine to, let's say 1877. For those that don't know, the election in 1876 had no electoral college winner, so in order for Rutherford B. Hayes to get the votes in the House, he agreed to pull troops out of the South, ending the Reconstruction era in the South and welcoming in the Jim Crow laws and a culture of rednecks in their cave holes suppressing their neighbors for no reason. Yeah, I fucking said it. This is a state, local, town issue these days, not a federal issue, but I digress again. So if I'm in the South in the fall of 1877 and I walk into the first plantation I see, are we so sensitive these days that this subject is off limits? Well, you know what? Find something else to listen to, you fucking snowflake. Maybe that liberal fuck David Pakman. Listen to his corporate-backed Ben Shapiro wannabe show, and go fuck yourself, Pakman. Yeah, I said it. Anyway, I'm asking the first laborer I walk up to and show them this madness we call our present day. After they get past the shock of this electronic device in my pocket that can access information on a whim and take high-quality paintings. No, Greg, they're pictures. But then I explained that I come from a land where white people are taking the positive natures of culture, day-to-day life, music that has originated with these set of people and using it as a corporate weapon of profitability and commercialism. Of course, you're going to have to explain to them what commercialism and probably profitability is, but if you give them a nice little roundabout of corporate profitability and commercialism, I'm sure they'll get an idea of what's going on. Now, do you think this person's knee-jerk reaction would be, damn, these white people are still racist after all these years? Or do you think I'd probably spend the majority of my time breaking down the MTV Music Awards and the VMAs and why they exist? I'm going to go with the latter. And that's the staff report.
We're trying to get a feel for how people spend their day.
The staff reports.
All right, just a quick reminder for everyone to hit the like button on our Ready Set Facebook page or subscribe to the podcast on Mixcloud, Spreaker, or Apple Podcasts or YouTube. Don't forget to hit the notification bell if you're listening on YouTube or rate us on the Apple Podcast and leave a review. That's it for this week. I'm your host, Joe Persinger, and this is your one-stop shop current events and politics podcast. If society is a joke, then we're just here for the first set. We'll see you next week, you fucks.
Thanks for listening to the Ready Set Podcast. Check us out next week, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter and look for us on our YouTube channel, Ready Set Podcast.